Welcome to another Peak Performance Partners podcast. Are you killing it? I'm Ricky Navarre. We have our guest speaker tonight here with us,
Michael Simmons with ROI-IT.
With ROI-IT. Take a look at tonight's highlight video. Michael, thank you so much for being here. I cannot tell you how grateful we are for you sharing that wisdom, that excitement. And I just want to just kind of jump in here. You know, a little bit about you. We talked tonight about your history. You've been in IT for 35 years.
That's
not your first rodeo, and you've seen some stuff. What you were bringing tonight, it was exciting. It blew my mind.
Well, it's meant to do a little bit of that. At the end of the day, if people don't feel a sense of urgency, then oftentimes they don't want it. They don't act on it, right? So at the end of the day, I don't want to keep people up at night, but I want them to be aware that security breaches and issues it's a thing. I mean, it's real, and I don't care if you're an individual, a company with 2 people, or a company with 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm. And I like the way you just put that. I don't care if you're kind of like that solopreneur. You got 2 people, you got 10,000 people. It doesn't matter how large your team is, your infrastructure, your corporation. Just because you're not the Googles of the world, you're not the NFLs of the world, the Amazons of the world, you are vulnerable. And I think you said something tonight that was really hit home, that those hackers, the malicious people, those that are wanting to come after you, have realized it's easier to go after $1,000 from 10,000 people than what was like $1 million.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you'll get 10,000 people to give you $500 faster than you'll get one give you $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah.
And so that is some of the things. So if you could share with our listeners today, what are some of the things that people should be thinking about, no matter what size company they are? What are some of the biggest things that you share when you have a conversation? Somebody says, "Hey, I got this, or I have this many employees. You know, I have this many revenues or not. I mean, this much in revenue or not." What would you tell them? Here's the basics, the fundamental things you should really look at no matter what size company.
So that's a great question, actually, and it's, when I say we, my team and I are very big about keep it simple, right? So we start off with the basics. So one of the easiest things you can do is address your password issues. We all have passwords. We have possibly hundreds of passwords for our banking, for our to pay our mortgage, to do whatever we're doing. And oftentimes what you'll find are people use the same password for all those. And and they're not very long passwords, they're 5 or 6 characters long, and they should be a minimum of 12 to 16. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, they should all be different. I encourage people to do, the thing I hear the most is, well, I can't remember all those passwords. And I agree, you can't, especially when they're complex passwords like they should be. So I recommend some sort of a password manager that you can get. And then use a really sophisticated phrase that you can remember, not necessarily a password, but a phrase to get into that password manager. That's step one, and just really the bare basics.
So you have a lot of people whose password is password?
We've seen a lot of that, yes.
1, 2, 3, 4.
We go in and we see the password with a Post-it note stuck on the side of the PC. So at the end of the day, it literally, and I know that sounds completely ridiculous and silly in today's day and age, and all the education that's out there about hackers, but it happens. It still happens.
Well, I think it happens because, and to a lot of people out there listening to this right now who are chiming in, if this is you, you're not alone. You are not the only person who has the sticky note or has a notepad hidden in that secret drawer that you have it all written down, or use the exact same password for everything, and you just, depending on whether or not you need to add a special character or not, throw that in the mix. You're not alone. And
that's a really good point. I never want anyone to feel, people come to me and say, "I'm so embarrassed I clicked on that phishing email," and I'm like, don't be embarrassed. I think I mentioned in my presentation tonight that I almost got caught a couple times this year. Mm-hmm. I mean, these phishing emails are so sophisticated and so well done that even the best can click on them and get caught.
Yes, even the best can get in. And it happens, and it really starts to become interesting as I see the larger companies, right? And so it's I heard a story recently where it was a smaller company, about 5-person team, right? And because it was so intimate, the assistant manager saw something, was a little weird, walked in and talked to the boss and said, "Hey, do you need me to do this? Right? Like, you need me to go get gift cards? What are you talking about?" Right?
Yep.
Like, I didn't ever send that.
That's a big one.
You know, then imagine when you have somebody where you have layers between the boss and an assistant, right? Not
Exactly.
an executive assistant. We're just somebody who wants to make a good impression. They're excited. They're excitable. They just want to do a great job.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, the CEO asked me to do this.
Gave me this task.
I'm going to deliver, and then have you seen a lot of that?
I've seen a lot of that. Yeah, no, it happens a lot. It really does. And you'll find that in phishing campaigns, that we do a lot of social engineering and phishing education campaigns for our customers, and you'd be surprised that the folks that commission you to do it, the CEOs, the C-level individuals, they're the ones that click on it the most. And if you look at the statistics, and that's not a good or bad thing. It's just it is a fact, right? But like you said, you've got that person who really wants to make a mark. Maybe they're new in the company and they see that phishing email, go buy $500 worth of gift cards and send it here. Some people just do it.
Yeah.
They just want to, and then they tell the CEO or their manager later, "Look what I did."
Yeah. Hey, look at me. And they're like, "Why did
It's
you
easy
do
to do.
that?"
It's easy to do. It's just really hard, and the key is education and to teach them what to look for.
I am so glad you said that, because I was just about to say that. For all our listeners out there, I think education is one of the most important things that any leader in any organization, for themselves in this area, right? You don't have to know it all. You don't have to try to assume you know it all.
You can't know it all.
Or put your head in the sand and be like, "Well, it's not going to happen to me," right? Like, it's better to be safe than sorry. Be prepared. Call in a consultant like yourself, and you do the free analysis, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we do a complete free analysis for our customers when we initially engage with them.
And I think that education and communication from the top down, and saying, "Hey, listen, here's what we need to be prepared for." And as you're saying, count on your people and your tech, right? But educate them on some of the things you need to look at, because you played a video at the end of the presentation that it was from Cisco, right?
Oh yeah, the anatomy of a hacker.
The anatomy of a hacker. YouTube it. It's not what you think a hacker is, right? Or the kind of the person. And if you educate them, it's the details that this person was doing, right? They changed an I to a capital L or capital I in the
Correct.
thing, and it changes everything. But they make it so sophisticated it looks like it's coming from the
Most
CEO.
people wouldn't even catch it. I mean, you'd have no idea.
And so I love that the social engineering, that you have a team that does that you can run organizations with them and their team from social engineering and really say, "Hey, let's test your system. Let's test this to protect them." You know what I mean? It's almost like running a fire drill.
And we recommend that companies do that quarterly.
Yeah, quarterly. So, and it's like, again, you have these drills, you put these things in place. It's awesome. Talking about things in place, talk to our listeners a little bit about VPNs. All right? And I ask you again, VPN stands for what?
Virtual private networking.
And why is that so important?
Well, I mean, basically it's encrypting of your data, right? So, and there's a couple of different types of VPNs. There's one that I'd recommend you load on your computer and always have it running when you're on the internet, period. There's lots of companies and manufacturers out there that do a good job with that. And then there's corporate VPNs. And that's the VPN where you need to get access to files from home in your office. And you want a secure connection to that office with encrypted data and traffic and credentials and what have you. And so that's a separate type of VPN that you would use for accessing your office remotely.
Yeah. I think having those things and those elements in place are key. Is there anything else that you'd share, as we kind of wrap this up? Because there's one other topic I'm going to hit on, but is there anything else that you would share with our group or our listeners that really is kind of a constant thing that comes up, or that you would say, "Hey, this is something you also need to think about"?
Well, again, I think just to continue to educate yourself. I mean, the attacks are getting more sophisticated. They're happening in areas that you don't think about, your thermostat at home or the office.
The Internet of Things.
The Internet of Things, right? And so it doesn't matter, if it's touching the internet, it has a risk factor. We kind of do a weighted factor with some of these and give them a weight level or reading or gauge, if you will, on how risky they are.
Yeah. The final thing I want to highlight and hit tonight for what you said, and I just bring this home. Back up your backup your backup. Like, you really hit that tonight 3 or 4 different times. Talk to our listeners about backing up and the different levels. Some people will say, hey, well, I got a hard drive. And some guys say, yeah, but I leave it plugged in. You know?
Exactly.
Is that really a secure backup if the hard drive is connected to the system?
So, back in my industry, they don't like the term backup. They want it to sound more sophisticated. But at the end of the day, I'm a keep it simple kind of guy. So it's all about the backup, right, of your data. It's inevitable that we're all going to lose data. I mean, it's the odds of us getting through without ever getting hacked, breached, either individually or as a corporation, are pretty slim, given the number of just sure attempts that there are on a daily basis. So the best thing you can do for yourself is back up your backup, right? So first of all, back up any data. I don't care if it's your grandkids' photos, your children's photos when they were kids, those Christmas videos. If you don't want to lose them, back them up. And don't just back them up to, as you mentioned, a drive plugged in on a USB. Back that USB up to a cloud. Today, Microsoft with OneDrive, and there's all kinds of different, products out there, Dropbox, that you can go to the cloud with as a secondary backup. Not to mention that hardware fails. If all you have is a USB backup, a hard drive of some sort, it could fail, and it will fail. Actually, it's not if, or it could. It will fail eventually.
So it's not a matter of if; it's a matter of when.
Right.
So
it's a mechanical device, and it will fail eventually. So you want to back that up, to somewhere else so that it's secure and protected.
Oh, I love it. I cannot thank you again for so much for participating, being our guest speaker tonight. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
ROI-IT. Reach out to this man. His information's on the screen. He's a great resource, does free consultations, or reach out to us, our team, Peak Performance Partners. We'd love to set up an introduction for you. Again, stay tuned for our other podcasts. Check out our previous ones to come. Are you killing it? Peak Performance Partners here from the Sterling Club. Have a great night, everybody.